And now, a few minutes with two of my friends who will soon be yours, the Techie and the Cowboy.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Techie and the Cowboy. My name is Alistair Hunt. They call me the Techie.
And I'm T.W. Lawrence. They call me the Cowboy.
And this episode is based off of a book that my wife and I are reading. We decided to be able to do one of the financial programs. This one is Bob Lodich. I'm hoping I'm saying his name right. He has a book called Simple Money, Rich Life. He and his wife teach financial classes. They've been teaching them for a while, but I liked it because it's had a different spin on it. You know, there's lots of different programs out there that help you to be able to organize and structure your finances and everything else like that. But I was actually doing a devotional on Bible.com and ran across one of his devotionals on your mindset about money and how it applies to faith. And then at the end, of course, he did his plug for the book. Free shipping. Yeah, free book if you just pay for the shipping, which I do the marketing for stuff like that, TW. So I knew what it was and I still hit the button. So obviously it works, right?
Yes, but it was worth it, was it not?
It really was, because some of the principles that he has in this book apply to more than just finances. One of which I've shared with at least 10 or 15 people, and all of which it has benefited them. So we wanted to talk about that. And it's off of his chapter 1. It says, the battle is his, but you have to show up. I was like,
right.
Wow, that's
okay.
Powerful. Yeah, that's powerful. So the story that he uses as a reference inside of this is the battle of, well, about 3,000 years ago, people of Judah had separate armies coming against them, and they were outnumbered, and they recognized their weakness. We have no power to face this vast army that's attacking us. We don't know what to do, but our eyes are on you. Judah knew they couldn't win this battle alone, so they turned to God. Then the prophet Jaziel spoke up, saying, listen, King Jehoshaphat, and all that who live in Judah and Jerusalem, this is what the Lord says unto you. Do not be afraid or discouraged because of this vast army, for the battle is yours, but not God. He continued, tomorrow march down against them. You'll not have to fight this battle. Take up your positions, stand firm, and see the deliverance the Lord will give you, Judah and Jerusalem. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Go out and face them tomorrow, and the Lord will be with you. The key part of that being that they had to show up. They could have sat behind the walls, all comforting, and said, okay, God, go do your thing. We'll just stay back here. We're safe. But God required them to do something first, so that way he could perform the miracle. And that was the key thing. And then they had a statement that this is the statement that I've screenshotted, taken, copied and pasted, said this to a whole bunch of different people. I think I'm going to post it up on my wall, but it says, when we take the natural step while prayerfully asking God to do the supernatural, we open the door for the miraculous.
I say, okay, that's good.
When
yeah,
we
you should
take
put
the
that on your
natural
wall.
step while prayerfully asking God to do the supernatural, we open the door for the miraculous. And this applies in so many different places outside of finances in life. We often pray for God to do something, but are we taking that natural step so he can amplify that? So it's two parts. It's the praying for it and taking the natural step at the same time. And then that opens up the door for the miraculous. It's pretty powerful, TW.
Oh, in fact, it is. It reminds me of my own father in South Texas, as you know, who was fond of saying, I forget what you call them, truthisms in his own way. And when he would repeat them several times, I would say, this must be important because I've heard this before. In this particular case, the one thing he said was, get up off your butt and do something. Whether it's right or wrong, do something. We can correct going forward. And it echoes that. Get up, do something. I will correct you. I will put my power to help you solve the situation you're in.
It
Very
reminded
powerful.
me of something that my dad also taught me, which is when you're in a situation that seems out of control, a situation of panic, a situation of, something going on, what's the next thing that can be done? Don't focus on all the stuff that's out of your control. There's a fire in the building. What can I do next? Like, what's the next step? And if you could focus on that, it'll help you to maintain your calm and maintain your panic right? So people often ask, whenever everything is going crazy, how it is I stay so calm and how it is that I can execute because I focus on that. All right, so the situation is what it is. The house is on fire. What needs to be done next? We need to make sure that the kids are safe. We need to make sure the pets are safe. And we need to get them out the house. What needs to be done next? Somebody needs to be calling 911 while it is that Wendy and I are gathering the kids. So that way the fire station's on us, our firemen are on its way. You know what I mean? And if you focus on the next thing, there's not a lot of room for panic because you're trying to execute whatever that next thing is. Then you get outside and you go crazy because you see your house is on fire. You know what I mean? But once it is that you're in a safe place or once it is the situation resolved, then you can go back and evaluate, is there things I could have done better? Or is there ways that we can be more prepared next time and everything else like that? But it requires you to be able to take action. I think that focuses.
Did you not bring this up as a topic of conversation at your Saturday men's group?
Yeah. So I was just fresh off of this, but also experiencing a situation where I had to actually implement it, right? A lot of times it is that we pray and we had a situation that was going on that seemed overwhelming and kind of out of our control, and all the way up until the last minute, all the way up until the nth hour. And all I could do was continue to be able to do what I could and my ability here on earth, right? While it is the praying for God, hey, I know that you've got this. I know you've never forsaken us. I know it is that you always come through. So I'm just praying that you give me the discernment, light my steps so I'm taking the right path. I don't ever want to be the door that closes that opportunity for God to do the miraculous, or the person that closes that door, right? So I was praying while it is that I was doing everything that I could in order to be able to resolve this situation, getting down to the nth hour, calling a customer service rep who says, hey, is this going to work for you? And I said, no, it's really not, but we'll make it happen. That's what it is that we do. God's got this, right? And in saying that, she was able to work some things out that I didn't even know was an option and actually make a better situation out of it. But I had to take those steps all the way up until the nth hour. I had to make the phone call to the rep. I had to recognize, even just out of a habit, recognizing God's power in it. And then he opened up the door for truly miraculous things to be able to happen. So just coming off of that, went to the men's group, was sharing the story, shared the quote with them, and shared some of the examples that he gave, because not only he gave that example, he also gave the example of Moses leading the people, what they have estimated now to be millions of people. I can't even comprehend. Look, I lead a team of 10, 15 people, and I about pull all my hair out. And that's really different for me, right? So I couldn't imagine millions of people, millions of opinions, millions of people saying what is they should have, could have done wrong, right? And you got Pharaoh's armies behind you with the chariots coming faster than you, and you have this wall of water in front of you, the Red Sea. And you have to have enough faith to walk up to the water. You could have said, hey, we got to find a different way around. He could have said, maybe with us having 1,000,000, we can outnumber them. And he could have taken on his own, but God gave him what to do. Then not only did he have to walk up to the water, but then he has to hold up a staff to the water and wait for something to happen. Like God didn't say, hey, I'm going to get you to the Red Sea. Don't worry, I'm going to part it for you. He didn't give him the plan ahead of time. He had to walk in faith all the way up to the wall of water and raise his staff. And then God did the miraculous. He parted the Red Sea. And then after they crossed, he did something even more miraculous. He crashed it down on Pharaoh's army, right? But in order for those things, it had to have that sequence of events to happen. Same thing whenever it is that the disciples were feeding the 5,000, right? They knew they didn't have enough food. They knew if they started feeding and they ran out, there was going to be some problems, right? But they had to have faith whenever, as Jesus said, feed my sheep, feed these people. And once they started feeding, then the food multiplied. It didn't multiply in the basket. It's not like the basket said, and there's enough for 5,000. They had to feed off of the little that they had. And as they're feeding, the food is continuing to multiply. It's so much so that they had leftovers. So not only did they have enough, but they had leftovers after as they fed, everybody was full and everybody was fed. They had to take a step in the natural in order for the supernatural to be able to happen and open the door to miraculous. It's great. I love those examples because they gave me a great visual. And you can go back through the Bible, all different places where it is that somebody had to have faith and they had to do it. So Zacharias had to go up inside of the tree. He had to have that faith. The lady had to have the faith to be able to touch the hem of Jesus's robe. And he noticed that he was being touched. These are all things that people did in the natural in order for the supernatural to happen, right? Even the
Right.
blind man by, that Jesus said, get up, take up your mat and run, right? He even started off with excuses. He's like, do you want to be healed? And the guy's like, well, let me tell you all the stuff that's happened to me in the past, right? But he's like, no, he could have just healed him. But instead, he made him take a step in the natural so he could do the supernatural. All throughout the Bible, there's stories of God and Jesus asking us to be able to take a step first. And I thought that was super powerful because maybe that's the one thing that's missing somebody who's listening. I know it was for me in asking for God to deliver us from whatever situation it is that we're in. We're praying about it. Oh Lord, please help me. Please show me something. But are we taking that step in the natural that He's guiding us to do? As crazy as it may seem, as it doesn't make any sense, but He's urging us. We got that spirit nudge to be able to do this, and then we're resisting it because it just doesn't make any sense. Why would I do that? Why would I do that? Well, because God's nudging me to do it, and then you take that step, and all of a sudden something opens up that you would have never seen before.
Right. When you first mentioned this to me, it reminded me of some conversations that you and I had in the past about we we just as soon have God send us a text or an email saying, "Here's what I want you to do today." Bullet point one, two, three, four, five. Be so easy because we are followers. The way, as I've explained, that I see that He tells me where the path is that He has chosen for me is that unexpectedly a door will open. That is, I have an opportunity that I didn't even think of, or I meet somebody for the first time. I'm going, who are you? And basically, why are you talking to me? Or how did I bump into you? That kind of stuff. But it, like I said about my dad, God is saying, I hope that you're smart enough to step through this door that I have just opened for you. So that's how so what you're talking about here is he's saying, I need you to walk out the door and then I can do what I do, but I need for you to do.
And you've experienced a little bit of that too when it comes to Scotia and the making of your clip, your trailer, right? The people
Yes.
that you met, you wouldn't have met if you hadn't taken some kind of step, right? Yeah.
Yeah. What is especially curious about this is I was a judge of 227 films done by high schoolers, which was a lot to look at. Fortunately, they were most of them were about 4 minutes long. But anyway, and then I met some people who were the other judges that were people in the industry as well. That is the media industry. And the guy who runs the high school film academy said you should really get involved with this one group. It's called Master Media, mastermedia.com. And what they are is they're creative types that are all Christian and they pray for other people in the industry that are not Christian to encourage them to see the worth of becoming Christian and to be more tolerant of those people who are Christian in the secular world of um, video production type of thing. So anyway, they have a big chapter here, and once a year, and it was this past weekend, they had a picnic. It was basically a barbecue in this guy's house, who's actually the president of the organization. He has an office here. There's an office in California, and there's an office somewhere else. But anyway, so I got talked into going, and it's kind of like, well, I don't know any of these people. I guess it'd be nice to go out and meet some other people. I'm not sure how many writers are going to be there since writing is my thing. But when I went there, I was reintroduced to one of the judges that I had met at this high school film festival thing, and he is an editor. I didn't know how good an editor he was or what his background was, that kind of stuff. I just kind of vaguely remembered him. Well, he and I got into a conversation about the video that we produced and about the virtue of how things are edited, different perspectives by different people's talent. For example, in the one that we did for Atascosa, the cinematographer was also the editor. So in the final version, we see a lot of really nice shots that may be held too long, but it's very beautiful to look at. If you just look at the pictures that are presented. But I gave this editor guy a card that had QR code on it so he could see the video because he'd never seen it. Not only did he, in good faith, take the card, he looked at it, which I only halfway expected him to do, and then he called me the next day and said, "Can we talk about this? I've got some suggestions, some insight. Let's chat." And so he gave me some advice, and I'm noshing on what he said and think it's doable. It's going to take a little work, but why not? But if I had not gone to the picnic, I would not have had that conversation. So that door I didn't know was opening. I just, as a good favor to the guy who got me into the festival, I went down with him. We were talking about some stuff he was working on, etc. And boom, this other thing happened. Obviously, in my mind, happened for a reason. I'm grateful. And it's a good example of what you say, when when you take action in the natural, divine comes along behind and says, "Okay, let me help you out here."
You could even rewind it further back than that. If you think about whenever it is you started to put this together to be able to do this movie, this clip, you didn't necessarily have all the ducks lined up. You didn't necessarily have the financing, the company, but you said, I got to do something, right? So you went out there, you found the funds to be able to do it. You found the actors, who were out of because of the strike, were out of work and they were
Yes.
available, right? You know what I mean? And so, but it
Yeah.
was alignment of timing. Like if you tried to do that same thing now, that the strike is over and they're back to, it would have been a lot more difficult to be able to do it. So you had to
Yes.
take those steps back then, right?
To get that level of talent, yes. So I can gleefully say to any actor, say, "Boy, we really got hurt hard with that strike," and to which I'm saying, "No, it was God's gift to me because," and they just look at me like I'm foolish, kind
Well,
of.
even your being faithful has benefited me. You were that same contest that you were talking about that you were a judge of. One of the young men who it is that has submitted his film is now an intern on our project. Drew is actually working on some of the stuff for our nonprofit Kingdom Relationship Network. But that was a connection that you made by going to that festival, seeing his work, meeting up with him, getting a hold of his was a grandfather, right? and then making all of those different connections. And it's just amazing how it is that when we take those steps, it doesn't even just benefit us. Sometimes it benefits other people, and it's that way. So
Yep.
just an encouragement that again, if somebody's watching this, who it is that has something that they're going through, something that they want to be able to do, and taking that step, as uncomfortable as it may be, in the natural. What is it that I can do? But it's a prayerful step. And notice that the saying statement said while prayerfully taking a step in the natural. I'm going to read it one more time just because I don't want to mess it up and chop it up and do it wrong. But it has to do with prayerfully taking that step, not just taking the step by itself. So here's what it says. It says, when we take the natural step while prayerfully asking God to do the supernatural, we open the door for the miraculous. See, so we're taking the natural step and we're praying at the same time, not just doing whatever it is that we think to, because then we'll end up running into the wall, but praying for God to be able to give us the discernment to be able to do what it is that He wants us to do and to be able to follow His path. And it's amazing how it is that we'll start listening and we'll start hearing those nudges. So pretty good stuff. Any final thoughts about this, TW?
No, it's one of those. It reminds me, and this is one of the things that can happen, and people can get discouraged when they say, "Oh, I rushed out and I did that, but no miracle happened." Well, you might have rushed the east when you should have been rushing west. And one of the other things that my daddy in South Texas used to say was he was very big when he was in ROTC, well, back before World War II, that they fired cannons. And they fired one just to kind of see where the things were. And they had stakes up there so they could grade things. And it was past the target to the left. Second one was on the other side of the target to the closer to them. So now, third time doing the math, they should be able to hit it. That's called convergence. You keep on getting closer and closer to your target. So, God's miracle is not necessarily a straight line, but it is a direction.
And my mom says something all the time, God's timing is not our timing, right? So also sometimes when we think it's not happening quick enough, we just haven't waited for the master plan that God has for our life. And it may be something different. One of the things that we talked about in the men's group too is if God had taken all of the stuff that's happened to us up until this point, right? Me at the ripe age of 46, you know, all the stuff that's happened to me. Imagine if back in my 20s, he said, all this stuff is going to happen, all these twists and turns in life and all these different things. I would have been like, whoa, 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 whoa. If he had told me 4 years ago, hey, by the way, you're going to go to Africa twice in 1 year, I would have been like, Africa, ha, 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 not for me, right? But it's just amazing whenever it is that you walk in the spirit and you allow him to be able to nudge you in the right directions. If he had told me that I was going to have a podcast, 7 years ago with a guy from Atlanta and that we're going to meet twice a week to be able to be prayer partners, that wouldn't have been I would have been like, that is what? What? But it's just amazing whenever it is that you walk in the spirit, how it is that he puts things in your life that really, really bless you. And I really appreciate this. Don't say this enough on the podcast as much, but I really appreciate being able to do this with you, TW. We've had a great time being able to do it up until this point, and I look
well,
forward.
Thank you. Yeah. Some cynical people could say we became good friends because we were too lazy to get out from that table.
Yeah. Hey, whatever God can use, he could take whatever it is that your faults are, like laziness. And
yes, God told me to just stay where I was.
Stay where it is. That God made me have a sense that I did not need to get up at this moment in time, or I just didn't want to walk around the room. Whichever one, it works. Both of them work together. So with that being said, we'll end this episode. My name is Alistair Hunt. They call me the Techie.
And I'm T.W. Lawrence. They call me the Cowboy.
Let's drop that outro music and we can do a little dancing while it is that is going, right?
Boom, chugga boom, chugga boom, chugga boom.
That's it for this episode. Join us again next time for The Techie and the Cowboy. Hit us up on our website, thetechieandthecowboy.com. Let us know what y'all think.